Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
This is episode 34 of the FAB podcast on Wisp Sports Radio.
Excuse me.
The FAB podcast is the weekly show brought to you by Females in Athletic Business for women in the sports business, where we believe that women in sport deserve equal coverage. Welcome to this week's episode. My name is Kristin Ray, and I'm the founder of Females in Athletic Business and one of your hosts of the FAB podcast. Today we are talking about the intricacies of starting a family while being a female working in sports. My guest today is Associate Director of External Communications and PR for the University of Michigan, Katie Gwinn Hewitt. She is also a member of the U of M Athletic Department's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, Kristin. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Katie, I'm really excited to have this hopefully very unique conversation today because we happen to be two women who are currently pregnant and working in collegiate athletics. We're going to talk a little bit about all that goes along with where we are in our lives and our careers in hopes of shedding some light on the processes that we're going through so that others hopefully can take some wisdom away with what has worked for us, maybe what we think we could have done better in this process. So Katie told me that she's about 22 weeks pregnant. I'm at 37. So Katie, before we get into all that entails, give us a little bit about your career path and what you do now for the University of Michigan.
Sure. So I went to college in a small town called St. Leo, Florida, which is about 30 minutes north of Tampa, Florida. I'm originally from Florida, and I played softball there. And when I went to college, I went with the intent of working in sports one day. My dream was to become a writer for Sports Illustrated. And so I went to college and I played sports, and part of my major as a communication major, one of the requirements was to do a pre-internship, which was about 3 hours a week, and a formal internship, which was more of like a full-time responsibility. And so I started with what they called the pre-internship. I started working in our athletic department at St. Leo, and I worked in the communications department with the other the sports information directors, as we're called. And I started doing some feature writing, and then I gradually, once that pre-internship ended, I started working there in like a more, not a full-time role because I was still in school, but in just like a larger role. And then when I graduated, I decided this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I was lucky enough to be offered a job at St. Leo upon my graduation, and I worked there for a year before going to work at the University of Tampa. And then when I was working at the University of Tampa, I was contacted about a job at Michigan. So it's kind of a strange bit of circumstances. I was working at two Division II schools, and then had made some connections and got an opportunity to interview at the University of Michigan, which is obviously a major Division I school. So I am the quote-unquote SID, the athletic communications person for volleyball and baseball at Michigan. So I have a lot of a lot of events to cover, but those are my two sports that I work with.
And I will try not to hold it against you being a Wolverine today. But since you weren't born a Wolverine or raised a Wolverine, I think we'll get along fine.
Sorry, my husband's family is actually from Michigan, and they are Michigan State fans.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good. I was hoping that's where that was going. So, Katie, without getting too personal, did you take your career, or more specifically what goes on at work at certain times of the year, into consideration when you decided to start a family?
I'm a worker and I'm a planner, and because of the nature of the sports that I work with, volleyball starts in August, goes through to December, and then baseball starts in February and can go into June. I my calendar is pretty full, and so originally when my husband and I started family planning, our goal was to have a baby in like July, which is a pipe dream at this point. So that was our intent, and things don't always work out the way that you plan them. So we actually had 2 miscarriages before this current pregnancy, and now at this point our baby is due the week before baseball season starts in February. So I did not plan it that way. It just happened. At some point, the planning kind of took a back burner, like a backseat role, I guess. And we just, after like a year of unsuccessfully trying, we decided to put the family planning first over maybe what I would be missing at work. So yes and no, I guess is the roundabout answer. But yeah, we definitely took it into consideration.
Okay. Well, first, so sorry that you had to go through that. I can't say that I understand, but I can tell from other people in my life how horrible of a experience that must be. And so, but I'm so excited for you that you're at this point in your pregnancy now. And I too did take it into consideration. My only real break in my job is August. And so that was our goal, was to try to plan it so that we were taking off like August, September, and being back in October for the season. But here we are, and Friday is my last day at work, and I'm going to be missing the first 2 months of our season. So I think the moral of the story is women in this industry are most likely going to try to plan these things around their careers, because you really can't not. I think most women in our positions in our industry are ones that want to be there during the season. They want to be there when things are in the depth. And so our personalities lend themselves to that. And I think our personalities also lend themselves to planners. I think in this industry is something that I've learned. But as you and I both mentioned, nature takes precedent in this situation. So that is one interesting part of this, is that you do have to learn to navigate what that means for your job when you're gone, and we'll get to that. But so I'm curious, because I waited till that first ultrasound where they tell you that everything's okay to really tell anyone at work. At what point did you tell the folks at work? And I'm curious what the response from your coworkers and your bosses were when you announced it at work.
Sure. So I think because of our previous experiences, our situation was a little bit unique, and so I had told my big boss, basically the head of communications, Kurt. I had told him both times that I had been pregnant before, just because I wasn't feeling well, and I was at one point I was in the middle of volleyball season last year, and so I felt like he needed to be in the know, but that was a secret that we shared. And I have a large department. I think there's about 20 of us in our communications and digital departments, so there's a lot of people. So I wanted to keep that to myself. But this time around, he was in the loop the whole time, and then one other person in my department knew. And then because we had the miscarriages and the losses that we had, our I guess I'm trying to figure out the words. Like, our timeline was different than I think most people with their ultrasounds and stuff. So we actually had 2 ultrasounds before other, like, I guess a normal regular pregnancy.
Other people normally do. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had one at 6 weeks, and then we had another one at about 9 weeks, and both of those were good. And then we had our other one at 12 weeks, which is like, I guess, when everyone has their first one. So all of those were good, but we did not announce until about 13 weeks, and that was just because I was starting to get a little belly. People were so we did that announcement mostly on social media. I didn't have a lot of individual conversations with the people that I worked with, and that was just personal preference of mine. I kind of wanted to tell a lot of people at once instead of telling them individually in person. So that was about 13 weeks when we let the cat out of the bag, if you will.
Well, I kind of made the same decision as you did too. I told everyone at work at the same time, but before that, I told just my my direct report and one of the students I'm closest to, who sits next to me every day, because I did kind of think I feel like a couple people who I work the closest with should probably know what's going on, just in case I'm running to the bathroom or in case something bad happened. So I think we were both on the same page about that. But I did make the choice to tell. It just happened that I think it was somebody's birthday at work, or it was like going away party, that everybody was in the kitchen at the same time. And so I just kind of was like, and oh, by the way. And everyone was really, really sweet and really excited for me. And not that I didn't think that they would be at all, but you just never know if people are going to start immediately thinking about like what it means for them or how it might inconvenience them. But that was not the case at all. So, question for you. How are you handling time off when you have the baby? Like, how have you talked with your bosses or your husband, or how long you're taking off, and how are they planning on handling your absence? I'm curious.
Yeah, so obviously our baby's not due in July, it's due in February, which is when baseball season starts, which is one of the longer collegiate sports seasons, of course. How convenient. So originally, I was just planning on taking off 6 weeks, which was what the university paid for at the University of Michigan, and so that was my plan, just in my life. And I love working. I work all the time, and I really couldn't imagine taking off more than that. And then, in a strange twist and turn of events, the University of Michigan changed their maternity leave policy. So now new mothers get 12 weeks paid. So I was like, well, then I think I'm going to take some 12 weeks off. But it was actually interesting because as soon as we announced this, and our friends and our family and everyone that I work with knew, that was one of the first conversations that I had with my boss, was like, how's this going to work? I'm not going to be comfortable traveling. Baseball has a lot of travel. It's not something that I want to be doing, this season. And so what's the plan? Like, what's your plan for me? What should I plan for? And my boss straight up told me, like, you're not doing baseball this year. Someone else will have to do it. And that was like a shock and a surprise to me, because we don't just have like extra people hanging out, not doing anything. So I wasn't planning on anyone taking that huge load off my plate. But that's basically been his ruling from the beginning, and not because he thinks I can't do both or anything, but he is really awesome, and I'm really thankful that he wants me to be able to focus on our child. So like straight out of the gate, he was like, this is something that you're not going to have to worry about. We're going to take care of it. And then, once you get through like the summer, we can talk about volleyball for next year. So I'm planning on taking off 12 weeks to begin with. And then I'm honestly kind of just waiting to see how I feel at that point and whether or not I'm like dying to go back to work or like not ready yet. So I'm kind of playing it by ear. I'm interested. What about you? You said 2 months.
Yeah, so I'm doing 12 weeks too, but I got a recommendation from a couple of other women in the athletic department actually who mentioned that they did 8 weeks completely off and then 8 weeks part-time. And so if you do that math, it adds up to 12 total, like 12 weeks worth of work days. But I liked that option because I don't want to be gone for the entire season. I like working during the season, like you said. And so it will allow me to kind of take that second set of 8 weeks to transition back. So I think I'm going to do like 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. every day once I'm in that part-time set of 8 weeks. Just, so I'm not struggling to get out of the house every morning after not sleeping, and I'm not gone the entire day, and I'm home before dinner time. So I think that's my plan right now, and it sounds like it worked for a couple of other women. So that's what I'm planning on doing, and I think that it will be better just the way that I work to have that like transition time and not go straight from not working at all to back to normal.
Yeah.
with nothing in between. So that's my plan. But who knows?
Yeah, it seems so overwhelming to think about, and my response to everyone is like, well, I've never done this before, so I don't know how I'm gonna feel, or I could be stir crazy, or it could be like I could never want to go back to work again. Like I have no idea how I'm gonna feel. So
Absolutely. So it's really nice that your boss seems so flexible and willing to work with you and understanding. I think that is probably a huge part about how this time in a woman's career, especially in an industry where a lot of people's office is a lot of men. I think that's probably a huge part of whether or not this is a positive experience or not for most women. So it seems really great that you've got such a good support system at work.
Yeah, like I said, we have a lot of people in our office, and a few of them have kids. So I think it's definitely good that they have like a perspective, you know what I mean? Like of what it takes, even if they're not mothers themselves, they play, a different role. And their paternity leave is a lot different than maternity leave. But yeah, so I think that helps in a lot of ways. So I feel really lucky.
All right, Katie, we're going to pause for a moment for our empowering book review. So take it away, Dr. Kuiper.
For those of you who are not familiar with my background, I'm an assistant professor of business administration at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And I spent about 10 years working in various capacities of the sports industry. So, and I'm an avid reader, which is why I'm hosting this podcast. The book that I chose this month was Let Your Mind Run, and it was written by Deanna Castor and Michelle Hamilton. For those of you who don't know who Deanna Castor is or aren't familiar with her, she's an American Olympian, and she has a plethora, that's the best way I can describe it, of records and national championships, most of which are in middle and long distance races, or all of them are. Her records and championships, they started from a very young age, and she's actually still running competitively. She broke the Masters marathon record, I believe it was in 2014 in Chicago. And her resume it also includes a bronze medal in the women's marathon in the 2004 Olympics. So what I'm getting at is the woman knows how to win, and this is what kind of made me pick the book, I guess, for this week, is I was really curious about, her successes and how she got to the point of where she was at. The focus of the book It has a lot of parallels between business and life. It's not just about running. Dina spends a lot of time talking about winning, but she really emphasizes the mindset of how it takes to win. She discusses her progression and her setbacks she faced throughout her career. But the important thing that she does is she looks at how to spin them positively. Overall, I really enjoyed the book. Dina really emphasizes what it takes to win, like I said, at distance running. But her overall message that I like the most is that anyone who has talent, talent is a great thing, but it can only take you so far. And she also emphasized that hard work can only take you so far, but that the emphasis needs to be placed on being in sync as a person. So this means like mind, body, and soul needs to be in sync if you want to win. And I think that that's a major parallel in business and life that she makes with running. A prime example from her book of how for her is she relied in her career early on her talent, that she was simply going to run hard to win. And she really emphasizes this, but it was her mindset and her health that were holding her back. It wasn't until she really started to become more self-aware and got her mental game right did she start to really mature as an athlete. And she does an excellent job about talking about personal growth and how she grew as an individual, not just an athlete. For most of you, or if anybody has listened to my podcast in the past, I try to relate the book to the FAB organization and the mission. And the way that I'd like to relate this book in particular to the FAB mission is that Dina discusses the importance of keeping an open mind and being positive and having a positive mindset to be a champion. And you can do the same thing in your career. If something negative happens, it might be just a little thing during the day. You need to, what I'm emphasizing is pushing those negative thoughts out and replacing it with a positive. This is what Deanna does throughout the book. And she even talks about breaking her foot in the 2008 Beijing Olympics, which I just can't even imagine what the parallel would be in your career. Other than potentially losing your job or losing a key client, I don't even think that probably does justice. But she then she talks about all the negative thoughts that she was thinking, and then goes on to discuss the positives that she got out of it and how to be okay and not upset at herself. The other point that I would like to make is she also talks about emphasizing teamwork for growth, and I think this really hits on the networking aspect of FAB. And she does this, or I guess a parallel I'd like to draw with the book, is she went from training with groups of men to training to teammates. She's constantly emphasizing the need for teamwork to grow, and how you can take this into your own community or within your own career is that you need a community to help you grow. And so, like I said, Deanna trained with a group of men at Adams State when she first went pro. These weren't her competitors. They were her peers, but they weren't her peers that she was competing against. They were simply other runners. So how you could transfer this into your career is by having a mentorship or community for you that's your training group from different backgrounds to push you. So it might be somebody else in the sports industry that works in a different realm than you, but it also might be somebody that just simply works in business and is in a different industry. So something to think about. Overall, I guess to summarize, I would definitely recommend this book. The only thing I didn't like about the book was I felt like at times the discussion and the details of particular races became a little bit drawn out. And keep in mind, this is simply my opinion, and that could be attributed to the fact that I've never been a distance runner. I might have been ingrained into each detail of the stories a little bit more if it was basketball, because I have a basketball background. So just take that as that's my opinion, but I would highly recommend this book if anybody's looking for a good book, and especially a book that emphasizes individual and personal growth.
All right, Dr. Kuiper, thank you so much for that book review of the book called Let Your Mind Run.
All sports, one voice, we coach. Tune in to the voice of women coaches on the We Coach podcast. This is Wisp Sports.
So just as a review, we are here with Katie from the U of University of Michigan Athletic Department, and we are talking about just all that goes into starting a family when you're a female working in the sports industry. And we were just talking about maternity leave and how that how that kind of makes us feel when we're both Katie and I are pregnant. We're both planning type personalities. We're both in college athletics. We both somehow managed to get ourselves pregnant in the busiest time of our years. Katie, talk a little bit about if you have any fears or anxieties about being gone. For me, things I'm worried about, it's not like, is the office going to handle me being gone? Like, that's not it. Like, I obviously don't think so much of myself that I don't think they're going to survive without me. But the things I guess that make me anxious are, and it has nothing to do with my actual workplace or reasons that they've given me to be afraid of this. So I understand that they're a little bit irrational fears. But I worry that like the people who are taking over my jobs while I'm gone they're going to be like, oh, she did a really good job at that while Kristin was gone. Maybe she should just keep doing it. Like, those are the things I worry about. Like, not just like having things be so different, or I missed so much that like I'm just like completely out of the loop by the time I get back.
Yeah, I think I had a lot more fear and anxiety when we were thinking about planning a family. Because, like I said earlier, like I really wanted to be born at on this specific day, and that would like the least impact my day-to-day operations and like our office's operations and stuff like that. But I mean, I definitely do have a lot of, I don't know if anxiety is the word. I have a lot of like questions about how things are going to get done without me. Just because, like I said, we don't have, everyone is accounted for and their role is accounted for. So baseball has like 60 games a year. We have 26 home games that are like, 4 hours each. It's a really big time commitment, and it's just like the SID is like the jack of all trades. We do a lot of different things. And so I'm responsible for a lot of different things. And so I have questions about how those things are going to get accomplished because everyone already has a job. So I think my anxiety is about like when I get back, what am I gonna be into? Like how is everything gonna be? Because I cover my sports a very specific way. That's my way. And I know that no matter who is doing my job, they're going to do a good job, but it's not going to be like I'm doing it. Yeah. So, but I mean, I also think, because of what my husband and I have gone through, at some point we were just like, well, I'm going to miss work. Like I have to physically, I have to recover from childbirth, and then I'm going to have a human on this planet that I need to care for. And so those things like definitely take precedent, and it's not like the craziest thing in the world to have a kid. So my office is going to have to figure it out. So I feel like I'm like midway between like having anxiety and just being like, well, it is what it is. It's too late to back out now. They'll figure it out.
Right? People survive this every day. I keep telling myself that. It seems like I am, like, I don't know, the only one going through this right now. At least in our office, there's, only one other woman who has kids, and she's like my mom's age, and she had her kids before my boss even started. And so I don't know that there was ever, even in his 25 years, I don't know that he has ever had another woman work for him who's been going through what I'm going through. So it's new for him. It's new for me. Luckily, there are a ton of people in the office who are maybe only just like 5 or 6 years older than me who have kids and have gone through this at least in the last decade, although they're all men. So my next question to you is, what do you think that women deal with when we're trying to start a family, when we're pregnant at work in this industry that men don't, because I feel like the attitude in our office is one that so many of the men that are fathers in our office are supported by their wives. And a lot of their wives are stay-at-home moms, which means that they're a lot freer to bring their kids to events and to not have it affect their job. Whereas I'm going to be the one who the baby needs and wants all the time, and I'm the one with the job. And so I feel like they know a lot about what I'm going through, but at the same time, I don't have a spouse that just stays at home and does, like cares for her. And again, is, ready and willing to bring her to games at every moment and things like that. So what do you see yourself going through that maybe the guys that might have wives in some other industry that are pregnant may not be going through?
Well, I think first and foremost, there's the responsibility, or maybe perceived responsibility, of like planning it to be the right time, or a time that like least affects other people. Like, you and I've just been talking about, like, if we could have had it this way, it would have been this month or this day or whatever. But it's like, I almost feel, and I felt this for a long time, because our family planning journey has been like over a year and a half at this point. But I feel guilty because I'm doing what, millions of other women around the world are doing, but it's going to have a huge impact on people in my office who, a large majority of them are men. So I think, like, first and foremost, there's that, and it's like this, like I said, this perceived like responsibility to do it at a certain time, and it doesn't always. I'm living proof it doesn't always work out. And then, the biggest thing that I worry about when missing a significant part of the year is like missing out on opportunities, like whether or not they're formal opportunities for growth or just informal opportunities for me to learn something. Like, I don't want to get stuck or like left behind. I don't want people to forget about me, because I think that I play a significant role in our office. So there's definitely, I think, a lot of fear about taking so much time off, and then again feeling guilty that you're taking this time off. And like, so my husband, he gets 5 days of paternity leave, which I think is absolutely absurd, and it needs to be more. But 5 days, like, that's like a vacation to the Bahamas or something. Like, that's like just a week. Okay, like, that's really not a big deal when there's 52 weeks in the year for his office. But when, we're talking about 3 months, like, or maybe even, 6 months for some people who have unique circumstances, or, want that extra time that they should have and are deserving of to spend time with their child. Like, that's a significant part of someone's career. So men don't, they don't have to worry about that. And like you said, we're a 2-income family, that's for sure, because we couldn't make it as a 1-income family if these were our jobs. And so, yeah, if there's other men in the workplace who are in higher positions and make a lot more money, then they can afford to have a stay-at-home spouse, and that's not feasible for us. So we're gonna have to figure it out.
Yeah. And we're in that same boat. I like what you said, though, and I think you hit the nail on the head, at least for something that I've been feeling, and I'm guessing if you and I are both feeling it, that lots of women feel it, that you're scared to miss an opportunity. And the opportunity could be just a trip that a spot opened up on that could be a big deal for you, or it could be a job offer, something. So it could be something, like you said, something very formal, or it could be something like a career development opportunity that comes by while you're gone. And I think those things are, dare I say, a little less, few and far between for women. At least that's how it feels sometimes. So the fact that you think about if one came and you missed it, how frustrating or devastating that might be emotionally, if not actually tactically for your career. So I think when you think about, like you said, just what you could be missing out on. And then I think you also kind of said what I was thinking earlier, in that I'm scared to become irrelevant when I get back. I'm scared that they're going to learn to function without me, and that, things are just, they're not going to see my value anymore. And so those are the things that I think are kind of plaguing me at this moment. I imagine that there are plenty of other women who are feeling those same things. But Katie, thank you so much for being willing to talk about these things, some of them very personal, because I don't think these conversations are had enough, especially with women in our industry. And I would love maybe, in the spring to continue this conversation once we both have our little ones and see what we can follow up on, because I imagine we'll both have a couple sets of new circumstances that are affecting our careers.
Absolutely.
So let's plan on rehashing this a little bit from a different perspective in a few months' time, and see if we can give our listeners even more perspective. And I hope that our listeners, even when I think, Katie, a lot of our listeners are maybe just a touch younger than us, and they're trying to break into the industry. And I hope they didn't tune out today, because while they may not think this is super relevant to them right now, there are things that I think early in your career you should even start thinking about before it comes to the moment where it hits you in the face. So hopefully we didn't lose too many of the younger crowd today. Well, thank you, Katie, so much for being with us. And I hope everything goes well, and let's stay in touch. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
Wisp Sports Radio can be found on any podcast app. Follow Wisp Sports on social media at Wisp Sports. Please give us a 5-star review on iTunes to promote coverage of women in sport. To follow Females in Athletic Business or this podcast, use FAB on social media. The FAB Podcast is a co-production of Females in Athletic Business and Wisp Sports. Check Females in Athletic Business out at www.fabsportsorg.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back next week.